Hi, ArcfieldWeather.com meteorologist here on Saturday morning, February the 1st, the first day of the new month, and I thought I'd take a look ahead. It certainly looks like an interesting month weather-wise in North America. There's a polar vortex split that is likely by the middle part of the month. It looks like there will be plenty of cold air around, especially across the northern U.S. and northward into Canada, and all kinds of opportunities for rain, snow, and ice throughout much of the nation, but especially the eastern part of the nation as we go through the next few weeks. Starting off here by looking at the 10 millibar height anomaly forecast maps from last night's run of the GFS. This is using Weather Bell analytics maps, and it was posted on X by BAM Weather. And what we're looking at again are these 10 millibar height anomalies going into the middle part of the month of February. You can see kind of a polar vortex split here by the time we get to the middle part of February. This last frame happens to be around February 17th or so. You can see part of the polar vortex on the North America side of the North Pole, and really all the way down into the southeastern part of Canada. And this, combined with some teleconnection indices that we'll take a look at next, really tell me there will be plenty of cold air around throughout Canada and throughout much of the northeastern part of the nation. Indeed, it'll be a battle, places like the Mid-Atlantic region, between that cold air to the north and some warmer air to the south and east. Kind of a southeastern ridge will be on the map here during much of the month of February. But all in all, plenty of cold air around, and this polar vortex split almost assuredly says that there will be cold air on the North America side of the pole. And we'll take a look at some individual daily forecast maps of the 500 millibar height anomalies to show that plenty of that cold air should make its way into the northern U.S. Well, I mentioned up front a couple of teleconnection indices that kind of tell us there certainly will be some cold air into the northern part of the U.S. as we progress through the month of February. One of the teleconnection indices we like to look at this time of the year is called the Arctic Oscillation, and we'll take a look also at its kind of closely related cousin, the North Atlantic Oscillation, the NAO. When both of these go negative this time of the year, that usually is a signal that there will be what we call high latitude blocking, higher heights than normal across Canada, and that in turn tends to favor the transport of cold air masses from way up in northern Canada into the central and eastern states. And you can see we're basically in the positive area here going into about, let's say, the 8th or 9th of February. Then it tends to slide for most of these models into negative territory. And again, that is an indication that at least, let's say, from around February 10th on, we could have some high latitude blocking, those higher pressures than normal, places like Greenland or northeastern Canada. And the NAO is doing a similar thing. We'll take a look right now at the NAO, and it too goes from positive territory into negative territory right around February 8th, 9th, or 10th or so, and then predominantly remains in negative territory into the middle part and likely the latter part of February as well. So the combination of that split of the polar vortex in the upper part of the atmosphere, the stratospheric level, with these two teleconnection indices sure send a signal that there will be cold air masses making their way from Canada into the northern U.S. as we progress through the month of February. Well, let's walk through last night's 0Z run of the GFS. All of these maps, by the way, come from tropicaltidbits.com. You see lots of blue and lots of orange on the map, and that will be a characteristic here as we go through the month of February. Lots of strong highs and lots of deep lows. In other words, a very active weather pattern, and that, by the way, will be one that is rather difficult to forecast. We'll have to kind of play each system on its own here, but here we are beginning the day on Saturday, February 1st. You notice a lot of strong heights here over the Aleutian Islands, and that tends to be a pattern here that sticks around for much of the month of February. And here we go moving forward. Again, lots of very strong high pressure ridges or higher heights than normal, and deep lows throughout the North America continent here as we progress through the early part of February. Lots of high pressure ridging at this particular time at the 500 millibar level by the middle of the week, and then we can continue to move forward here in time, and we'll kind of go quickly towards the middle part of February. Here we are now, February 8th, February 9th time frame, and again, I mentioned up front, there will be that southeastern ridge here that we'll have to watch, because that is rather typical for a La Nina type of winter season here. We haven't seen it much this winter, but this is something we'll have to watch for. That tends to promote some quite mild conditions down across the southeastern part of the nation, and at times that warm air can penetrate northward up along the Atlantic seaboard, something we'll monitor over the next few weeks here. But notice here, by the time we get to about February 10th or so, the overall flow up here, this is North Pole, right in this region right here, and there's a flow right here. If you go parallel to these lines, that certainly look to me like that will allow for some cold air to be transported from way up in northern Canada into the northern part of the U.S. Still have a lot of ridging here out across Alaska. Again, that in turn favors the movement of some cold air masses from way up in Canada into the northern part of the nation. We'll continue to move forward here in time, and again, you have that ridge we'll have to watch along the eastern seaboard at times here, but just intense high pressure ridging over the Aleutians, over Alaska. This is now all the way out into the middle part of February. You see little troughs here and some deep troughs here as we get towards Valentine's Day here, and then into the middle part of February. And again, one of the overriding features here is this out here, this intense high pressure ridging, higher, way above normal heights here at the 500 millibar level as we get into the middle part of February. And again, that overall flow here, look at how tight those isotachs are at this time. That should allow cold air masses to make their way from northern Canada into the northern U.S., and certainly some of that cold air will spill out over the eastern part of the nation. Well, now let's take a look at the 850 millibar temperature patterns here, again using the North America view. And the main thing I want to point out with this series of maps here is there will be plenty of cold air around here in Canada and the northern part of the U.S. going forward through much of the month of February. Here we are early this week, a lot of very, very cold air relative to normal over the southwestern part of Canada, spilling out across the northern states into New England, let's say by the Tuesday or Wednesday time frame. Then there's certainly a lot of warmer air here down across the southern half of the nation, and some of these prior videos I've done, I've mentioned this battle zone region here, and this certainly will be a theme here going forward in February, with very cold air to the north and very mild air to the south, and a kind of in-between pattern here. In between those two areas will be a battle zone region with lots of storminess moving along that frontal boundary zone, or the temperature gradient. By the way, as we move through February with those increasingly warm and humid air masses coming out of the Gulf, you can expect to see some severe thunderstorm activity increasing as the month goes on. Again, rather typical of the month of February, and also kind of typical to have some extra enhanced severe thunderstorm and tornadic activity in a La Nina type of spring season. So we'll monitor that over the next several weeks, and indeed going into the month of March as well. Here we are now all the way out to February 7th or 8th or so. And remember, it is at this time that we saw those teleconnection indices, the AO and NAO, kind of flip into negative territory, looking like they will stay in negative territory, and that tends to favor the overspreading of colder than normal air into the central U.S. and ultimately into the eastern U.S. Here we are now out by February 9th and all the way out to February 10th, and this is a pretty impressive area of colder than normal conditions. Again, this is the time frame where those teleconnection indices drop into negative territory, and also where that polar vortex kind of splits off, and there's a piece of that polar vortex sitting out over, let's say, southeastern part of Canada around the 10th or so of the month. We'll go out a little bit farther in time, and indeed, certainly plenty of cold air around across Canada, much of the northern U.S., and again, we'll have to watch for that southeastern U.S. ridge here that will feature some warmer than normal conditions here, and there'll be kind of a battle zone. I would say right now in general, the northern mid-Atlantic, the northeastern part of the nation certainly looks in store for a lot of frozen precipitation. The southern mid-Atlantic region certainly will have the opportunity going forward here for plenty of frozen precipitation, but it will be much more of a battle with that warmer air positioned to the south and east associated with that upper level ridge. Well, let's kind of wrap up with the surface forecast maps. Again, using last night's run of the GFS, we had a rain event here in the Mid-Atlantic region yesterday and last night. The month of January ended on a wet note. Places like D.C., Philadelphia, New York City, there was snow across central New York and into New England. Even this morning, some lingering snow over New England. And we have the possibility of an ice situation developing by the middle of the week. We'll get into that in a moment here. I'm talking about the Mid-Atlantic region for that ice threat midweek. By late in the weekend and Sunday night, we have one wave of low pressure moving across the Great Lakes region, and that can certainly produce some snow across New York State, maybe even upstate PA, overnight hours on Sunday, and that moves into New England late Sunday night into Monday morning. And then we'll have a frontal system. It's kind of an important player right here. You kind of can see the signs of a cold front right in this position right here. I'll draw it here in this isobar pattern. This is by Tuesday morning. And notice the flow of air out of the north behind this front. There's strong high pressure, very strong high pressure over western Canada. So colder air is moving in during the day on Tuesday into the Mid-Atlantic region, into the northeast U.S. That's a key player here as we move forward into the middle of the week, because by Wednesday morning you start to see some moisture really gathering together over the Tennessee Valley. Now notice also this high pressure system over New England. That to me is an important player because that tends to anchor that cold air at the surface when you have strong high pressure like this. In other words, this cold air will be in place as of Wednesday morning and will be reluctant to give up its ground during the day on Wednesday into Wednesday night as that moisture starts to flow to the north and east, and the end result could be some sleet, some freezing rain possibly by Wednesday night, and that moves all the way up into the Mid-Atlantic region by the time we get to Thursday with one low pressure area moving off the Mid-Atlantic coastline by early Thursday morning. So again, possibility certainly exists for an icy situation in at least parts of the Mid-Atlantic region, let's say late Wednesday night into the day on Thursday, and farther to the north, New England, New York State, certainly accumulating snow is on the table for that same time frame. So this is the first threat of some frozen precipitation. Then we go a few days later, and there's certainly some signs, some strong signals that there'll be a storm to deal with somewhere around Super Bowl Sunday, which is a week from tomorrow, February 9th time frame. And again, we'll have this battle zone region right here with very cold air to the north and warmer air to the south and east. Mid-Atlantic might be right in that battle zone region with some areas getting ice, some areas getting snow. This is several days away, but something to watch for. Again, there have been many computer model runs with a signal for a strong storm right around that February 9th time frame, something we'll monitor here. Once that passes by, this is when that colder air can really overspread much of the central and eastern states, with those teleconnection indices moving into negative territory by about around this time, February 10th, and that polar vortex split really taking place with a stratospheric polar vortex sliding south and east into the southeastern part of Canada. So a lot of cold air around, and there certainly will be additional low pressure systems to deal with as we go into the middle part of February and the latter part of February. So certainly the new month looks like it'll be quite an interesting month with the polar vortex split playing a role, plenty of cold air around, and we'll keep an eye on the teleconnection indices as we progress through the month, and also keep an eye on that southeastern U.S. ridge, which looks like it'll be an important player on the field as well. That's it for now. For ArcfieldWeather.com, this has been meteorologist Paul Dorian.